y'all doing this evening? Oh, I think I missed it. Yeah. The mic. That's what I'm doing. Flip the mic open. How's everyone doing this evening? I know it's been a long time since I left you with the Rational Radical show. Sometimes schedule alternate Wednesdays or first and third Wednesdays sometimes to give us extended lulls or extended broadcast time. But, you know, we're going to be here, you know, irregardless. Oh, I forgot my notebook. Give me 1 second. Let me grab my notebook and then I'll be right back. 1 second. All right, got my notebook. My day has been busy, and fruitful, and unpleasant. I'm very happy to be here with y'all, to be here with Skip backstage, powdering his nose, I suppose. I don't know. I guess he'll come on when he's ready. Anyway, let me turn down this music and let's jump in with both feet. I prefer the music, me personally, but everybody complains when the music's playing in the background because, like I said, well, why are you backstage? What you getting ready for? What's the big reveal? Just fashionably late? I mean, some people would call that. Well, I've been accused of being a diva myself, so I'm not going to level that accusation against someone else because I know how hurtful that is. Do I need to add you? I can't hear you. I see you, but I can't hear you. Should I add you? Yes or no? Oh, I got to add you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What happened?
That's you.
You should be able to add yourself.
Hey, bro, you changed the settings.
No, I did not.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I'm just saying.
He getting his Trump on.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Did you hear that?
What?
Nelly said you getting your Trump on.
I didn't change. Nope.
This boy came in like he just taking out. Like, bro, like what you got going?
Executive orders. I did not change nothing, man. I didn't do nothing about nothing. But anyway, it's good to see you, man. It seems like it's been forever. How you been?
Man, as good as it can be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Standing up, we in it.
I've been under the weather so long, man. I've had to compromise my values.
I didn't told you.
And then last night, I go down again. I just can't shake this little bug I got. I don't know what it's about. Everybody else in the house is healthy and well and doing cartwheels and having a good time. And I'm just, you know, going through the day in a fog. I'm not a vegan anymore. I'm no longer a vegan.
Oh, you ate some honey?
Yeah.
You ate honey?
Yeah, like this medicinal honey. Didn't want to, man. But so I'm here with y'all, swine eaters. What do we do? I don't even know how to be a swine eater. What do we have to do? What obligations? What holidays?
Hey, bro, you really are a Republican.
Swine eater handshake.
Because you was like, oh, he powdering his nose. Like every accusation is an admission of guilt. You know what I'm saying? Like you really the one out here. You really the one out here on those animal products. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, every accusation being a confession, that only applies to conservatives. That doesn't apply to leftists or liberals.
It apply to you.
You heard about
that? Accusing me of powdering my nose, and you over
I didn't accuse you. I was wondering where you were because I was running late.
Yeah, you was out there.
I just literally came to the front door. Huh?
You was out there getting your Yogi and Boo Boo on, your Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, whatever it is. But I literally came here. I stopped in the kitchen to brew a tea. I had to jack one of my sons for the tea kettle because he was making some tea, and I jacked my son for the tea kettle to make myself a tea. And I ran up here. I ain't had time to do nothing. I haven't had time to be at peace or to center myself. So I'm likely to say some things that are pretty far out because today's topic.
You also changed the setting so I can add myself.
I got to check that, but I ain't changed nothing. Geechee might have changed something.
Geechee wasn't even here.
That don't mean you can't. If he has access to a computer. Let's see.
We've seen all this before, bro. Sunshine Anderson heard it all before.
Oh, here it is right here. Oh, nope. Nothing's changed. I ain't going to share the screen because there's sensitive information on here. But I can share. You can just go there and you look at the members and you still got admin status. Okay,
we're going to see.
You still got admin status all day. So, I don't know what, some links and some websites you probably shouldn't visit because they can compromise your computer. So, if your computer is not functioning properly, I don't want our page to get hijacked, man.
Not me, champ.
Man, be careful. The internet's not safe. It's not a safe space.
Man, I gotta go get my hair cut, man. I got horns.
I cut my own hair.
Ugh. But then you don't get to go to the barbershop.
Huh?
But then you don't get to go to the barbershop.
I ain't been to the barbershop in years.
That's what I'm saying.
I ain't been to the barbershop since the 90s. Last time I went to a barbershop, I had a high top fade.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I went to a high top fade to locks. And when I had locks, I never went to a barbershop. And then I went from locks to this sad situation.
Hey, are you here voluntarily, or are you know what I'm saying? Like, this is where you live now?
What do you mean by that? Oh, no. This is genetics, man.
Oh, okay.
I lost the genetic roulette. But now I get to hang out with my uncles. All my uncles are robust, bald head hoes. So I get to sit up with them, and we all a bunch of bald head hoes. So me and my uncles, I feel like I'm a part of something. And they used to always tease me for my haircuts. I got one uncle that got hair, and he's kind of an outsider. His brothers don't rock with him like that. But now I show up to Kansas City, and people see this, and they were like, come on in. Come on, play dominoes.
Hey, man.
Cool.
Well,
yeah, so it's a rites of passage. I tell my sons, they both got hair well beyond their shoulder length. And I tell them they'll be here one day, and they're like, nope.
My boys always, tripping on me being bald.
Yeah, I told them, well, the bald gene is matrilineal. So actually, it comes from the mother side. So they might be safe. Because I know my wife's father had hair his entire life.
Oh, wow.
Had a good head of hair. So they might be saved. I hope not. I mean, you're not a real father if you don't hate on your kids. There's Comrade Trav. I need his links. I was trying to share his info with somebody. I was trying to recommend you, him, and some other MCs because somebody was asking about some progressive, conscious, toxic masculinity rappers.
Yeah, I got a lot of that. But
so,
hey, Trav, don't think you got away from me, champ.
Yeah,
I'm still pulling up, and it's gonna be sooner than you think. So
don't
just
say it on the computer. Don't say it on the. Yo, what's up with Lord Jamar?
What he did now?
He has taken the Bible and the Quran literally and believes that the earth is flat and it's under a firmament, and that the earth is the center of the universe, and the sun and the moon are both contained within a dome above the earth. He is a militant, and I don't hesitate to say militant because he's expressed violence, that he would do violence to people who try to educate him about the spherical earth. So he's an unapologetic flat earther, and it's based on the Bible. And he had a debate with this. He had offered to debate. Who's that scientist everybody likes with the 70s afro?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. He wanted to debate him. But since they couldn't get him, they got this other white boy named Professor Dave to debate Lord Jamar, And what's funny to me is I don't understand why the 5%ers aren't checking Lord Jamar. Because Lord Jamar is out here acting and behaving and speaking like a 10%er.
10?
Huh?
A 10%er?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's out here conducting and speaking like a 10%er. He's supposed to be a 5%er, and the duty of the civilized man is to teach, and he's not conducting himself as I self Lord and master. And it's funny to me that somebody could be out there wild and you literally have like atheists and scientists checking him. Oh, they did? Oh, okay, good. Okay, I missed that. Good, because I was like, where is the nation of gods and earth on this? Because he represents them hard, man. I heard that 5% album, and that shit was nice. That shit was nice. I literally listened to that album on loop driving through Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and I was bumping Lord Jamar 5% album, and I'm like, I'm a fan of Brand Nubian, and I support all their solo projects. And Lord Jamar had came out with this solo project after he was always, but you can't listen. Anybody who's a true Lord Jamar fan gotta know that his level of reactionary thought goes all the way back to the 80s. So, but I figured because it was pro-black, reactionary, backwardness, I give it a pass. And I feel like he's my favorite second member of Brand Nubian after Derek X. But man, that flat earth, man, these people who take the Bible literally,
bro,
wow. But I guess they the true believers. They are hardcore.
Bro, what I will say is I'm not hip to Derek X, but man, Grand Poobah is probably the third. He top 5 coolest dudes in hip hop ever.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't like how he dealt with Brand Nubian though.
I'm just talking about cool, man. Like that was the 411. Jabot's hanging baggy. Tommy Hilfiger Top Gear.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. You can't come out with All for One and talk about drugs in our community and liquor stores and how the white Caucasus Mountain cave dwelling devil is putting drugs and alcohol in our communities to destroy the minds of the 85ers. And then you out here promoting liquor.
Right.
And you endorsing liquor and other
listen, bro.
I'm listening.
I can't speak on what 5%ers believe and do because I'm not a 5%er. And I just think I think that I was talking the other day about like some current stuff happening politically. And I was talking about you're talking about ascending violence and descending violence. And one of the things that I have come to, just kind of like as I mature and just kind of settle in is I have so much that I have to focus on me doing the right thing and where I need to be. I don't know, man. It's just weird to me because I feel hypocritical in that because I've told you several times that like because you're not a Christian, you can speak on the effects of Christianity, but speaking to the church, I just don't think that's your place because you're not in the church. You know what I'm saying? Being critical of it, I think, is one thing, but just kind of like where I think this conversation could be going if I jumped in it a little bit, it don't sound like it comes from a place of love. And I don't think that's my place because of all the fucked up, you know what I'm saying, that my faith has done and how, really me as an individual, how far I have to go. Cause I think it's strange to, like the way that I understand, 5% is coming out of Islam and the Quran. And I just think it's weird to be like the black man is God, and then to know so many of them that be with non-black women and the smoking and the drinking and the like all of that just seems weird to me in the same way that Christians, seem to not be focusing on the love part. And I just don't want to, get out there bad and then make a statement that I gotta hold up for. Cause what I said, what I meant might not have been what somebody heard, and I still gotta hold up for that. Cause I talked about this before. Like when you say you a thing, it's something Nally said. When you say you a thing, you gotta live up to the way that thing is defined by everybody else, not by you. You know what I'm saying? Which is why, like people will be like, hey, well, you say you a Christian, why you don't think we should stone gay people? And it's just like, bro, like that's not the way I understand that. And now it's like, now I gotta prove things that ain't got nothing to do with me. So I don't know. Lord Jamar, I think the earth is round. You know what I'm saying? I would need to see the most compelling document to prove to me that the earth is flat.
The Bible.
That's not compelling enough.
The Bible's not the most compelling book ever written?
No. like, nah, I can't say that. You know what I'm saying? So, nah, I just can't.
Well, I appreciate everything you're saying. And the one thing I have to disagree with is where you say I'm not coming from a place of love. And my position is, if you have a messianic evangelical religion that has had a consistent presence in state power through monarchical governments, through totalitarian governments, through democratic governance, if your religion has infused every element of our lives, including national holidays that revolve around days of recognition of your religion, I give as much to religion as it gives to the rest of us. I don't get on here and talk a lot about Jainism or Yoruba and Akan religions or even Native American spiritual systems, even though I have my critiques of them, and people going out into the mountains with ayahuasca. I tend to focus on the imperialist religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, the supremacist religions, the colonial religions, the religions that justify caste systems. So there are many, many diverse religions, but I think some of them are a threat to everything that we now as modern humans hold value. Our personal freedoms, our personal dignities, empathy and love for other human beings. and the very motivation to preserve the viability of our ecosystems and our planet. Religion plays a central role in disrupting that. Not to even mention the many wars that are justified and driven, you know. So
not one I was told. Not one I was told.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there's not a person on this earth who's outside of religion.
Well, I don't disagree with the premise, but the thing is that me as a person who believes in the divinity of Jesus, right? As a person who believes that, my criticism of Islam ain't gonna be heard in the same way as a Muslim's criticism of Islam. As a person who believes in the divinity of Jesus, I don't have a leg to be critical of everybody else. I think in this instance, you are in a better position to be critical of all of those things because you have rejected all of those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I say it, even if we're saying the same thing, the response isn't going to be my critique. The response is going to be, but you a Christian.
Right. And which is another example of how religious dogmas and religious belief creates another form of division, which is the last thing we need.
Yep. So that's why I'm just like, man, I can't get into that. And, you know.
Yeah. And I've never throughout my active life said I'm not going to work with or engage with a person based on their religious beliefs. But there are countless people to this day who didn't patronize my little businesses, who refused to work with me on certain, vital projects or exclude me because of my position.
Well, and I also say Diallo is yes. And boy, as your friend, you know what I'm saying? Yikes. Because sometimes you do be out there bad, you know what I'm saying? And as a person who loves you, who's in community with you, who really wishes you would wake up and move to the South where you could find joy and a climate where you don't have to, where the temperature isn't in the Neels, you know what I'm saying? Like, where the temperature is not a person that is in grade school's age, you know what I'm saying? I just think you would do better here, and you be wilding sometimes. And yikes, do you be wilding sometimes?
But I'm fully justified.
I don't disagree with that. But you know what I'm saying? As people have told me, and as I've told you, because of the way that, like I've told you before, like people look at us, well, people look at me where I am and see you. So it has made it far easier for me to see the way people view me here, in watching the way that you interact with folks. It's just, man, I have no idea how we get out of this condition.
Well, I got
because it just don't seem like we want to be out there. Huh?
Love won't get us there.
Boy, let me tell you something. You remember, I forgot who said it, but they told Martin Luther King that nonviolent shit will get you killed.
Yeah.
Love will get you killed. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, man. And I say that as a person who firmly believes that you have to love your enemies so that you can maintain your humanity.
Yeah, that's a thing. I think before we get into that, can we just acknowledge the passing of Neely Fuller?
My brother told me that yesterday. We definitely should take a moment.
Yeah, let's have a short moment of silence. Okay. And I've shout out to Fuller. My favorite thing about that Fuller gave us was the maximum emergency compensatory justice. That's probably one of the favorite tactics and strategies that he put forth. But I'm gonna go find my old dusty copy of the Code and do a review retrospective on the Code. And I think I'm only going to review books by authors who have passed away, because when I reviewed the Community itself and Dr. Naeem Akbar called and chewed me out, I can't handle that. You know, I can't handle that. So I'm only going to review books of authors who have passed, or young authors who I see as peers or my age or younger. No more elders. I hate being in trouble with the elders.
Hey, boy, because they really let you have it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just in the realest way. So, you know, first off, for you to, you know what I'm saying, casually flex that name Akbar called you, that's crazy, right? But I'm just talking about in my community, the way that people, you know what I'm saying, when they pull you to the side and just be like, hey, let me rap with you for a second. And, you know, like, basically just.
Yeah, I've had
your face,
on my neck forever. My elders have been on my neck. I just can't escape them. So, yeah, that's unpleasant. But let's get into Love Will Not Save Us. I just thought we would talk about that topic adjacent because it's Valentine's. Do you celebrate Valentine's Day?
I mean, celebrate, I think, is crazy, but you know what I'm saying? Like, observe, I think, is crazy, but
participate.
Yeah, I guess I can say participate. Like, you know, like
some flowers.
Yeah, like if the woman gonna be happier with some flowers than she would be without them, you know what I'm saying? Like, what it, you know, that little $17 ain't nothing.
Yeah, listen, it's not a setup.
Yeah,
bro,
I'm just saying, like,
what you want the car? It's not a setup. I'm just curious.
Yeah, but like to be on some, like, you know, like, I matured enough to be like, I ain't gotta fight Valentine's Day. I can just get the woman some flowers. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah.
If my wife came to me or tomorrow, I'm like, we doing Valentine's. I'm like, fine.
Yeah.
We're doing Valentine's.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. You know, it's not, I don't, like I said, we do Halloween big around these parts. And
yeah, that's wild to me.
I've had people come at me like, bro, you out here celebrating demons, and you out here celebrating this European Western holidays, and they keep throwing Dr. Ishaka Musa Barashango in my face because he wrote 2 volumes books on European holidays and why Africans shouldn't observe European holidays. And you just why, you know, we do Halloween big, and I've fallen back on celebrating Kwanzaa. I mean, Karinga Claus ain't been down my chimney in at least 3-4 years. So I personally think, I know staunch atheists who celebrate Christmas. They get a tree, they get presents, and they go with their children and do it. And I'm like, this shit is mad fun.
Yeah.
You know, one year I went out in the early July, and bought some bottle rockets and some Roman candles. And because I'm like, man, my sons never had an experience with fireworks. And I remember growing up, like I said, I had 5 uncles, and they were some country dudes, and they would go get a truckload of the most dangerous fireworks they could, and just be out there, boom, boom, explosions and lighting shit up all night. And so I'm like, man, I'm wondering. So I went out and did, you know, I wasn't celebrating the 4th of July. I was popping firecrackers.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, I felt guilty still because of how toxic and disruptive it is to the wildlife and the ecosystem. It's just a very toxic and grotesque thing to do. So I'm not motivated to do it again, but it's just something I wanted my sons to check out. And they enjoyed it, but they, you know, they're not, they could take it or leave it, you know. But in the holiday spirit, this is the holiday that represents love. And I think Black people, from the first time we encountered hostile foreign forces, have had a very warped sense of love. Black people are defined, cultures, African cultures by and large, are defined as xenophilic. And
Okay.
xenophilic is basically the opposite of xenophobic, that have acceptance of strangers or even love for strangers. And that's why across the continent, you find alien languages, alien cultural practices, and alien religions that Africans have embraced above the originators of that religion.
Yep.
Like the Catholic Church all across Europe is shrinking in influence and participation. The only place that the Catholic Church is gaining ground and expanding its membership and influence is on the African continent. And in fact, that's across the Western world. And Black people, we've always been very proud of our capacity to love, our capacity for nonviolence, our lack of holding a grudge, our lack of seeking to harm others that have harmed us or visit upon people who have abused us the same levels of abuse. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be proud of it, but there's also rhetoric about, well, if you hate, you can lose your humanity. Or even worse, that if you hate harms you more than it harms your target. But throughout all that, we see people engaging in behaviors towards their fellow man that we're told will destroy your humanity or destroy you from within and without. And they are, by modern or by economic and nationalist definition, they are thriving. So I think that Black people, and there's one more, that rhetoric about we need to love each other. And our love somehow protects us from our enemies. Us being together, whether it's in intimate relationships or just pro-Blackness in general, loving every Black man, and Black men love the Black woman, and Black and Africans love the diaspora, and all. If we all just love each other, that will somehow translate into us being more powerful and less vulnerable to our enemies.
So yeah, right. What I can say is I think African people, okay, I think two things. I think more than two things, but I think two things relative to this, like in this moment. I think the first thing is John Howard Clarke saying that a people's greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. I think African people and our humanity and our ability to see the humanity of others is definitely a problem. Because that is what leaves us thinking that we can love our way out of a situation. The other thing that I think is that we really confuse love, and I don't know what the other term is, but it's a term that is related to being abused, being taken advantage of, being run into the ground, not being respected, and being denied the humanity that God gave us as some noble pursuit. Cause I ain't really trying to, like Buddy in the chat, I don't even know how to say it. Zaz Ubatu. Hopefully I'm not mispronouncing your name. Like earlier, Buddy was like, bless my heart because I'm saying love my enemy. You know what I'm saying? And in my ego, I immediately think this is a sick Negro. You know what I'm saying? Like he has no idea who he's talking to. You know what I'm saying? And then I had to remember that people are not always responding. Haas. People are oftentimes not even responding to what's being said, and sometimes they're not even responding to what they heard. They're responding to the thing that they felt and what somebody else told them about what is being talked about. All of that to say that I ain't got nothing for a lot of folks, and I won't allow my humanity to be diminished in those interactions. Here's an example. The way that white folk could blow up black children in a church, the way that white folk could deny a man his land, the way that white folk can walk through the street and kneel on a man's neck to kill him. If I responded the way that they did, I don't think I could live with myself. And that don't mean for a millisecond that I want to be in their company, that I think I should turn the other cheek, that should not be responded to, not only in kind, but +2.
So can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
If someone threatens the life of your children, they haven't themselves forfeited the life of their own children?
I don't think I could do that, bro.
Because I think we confuse.
I'm asking you a specific question. Could you do
that? See, I wouldn't do what they did.
That's all I'm saying, but it's a yes or no question. That's what I'm saying. It's a yes or no question.
But here's the thing about do unto others.
Mm-hmm.
If I was a genocidal maniac, I would expect people to deal with me appropriately. But I'm not a genocidal maniac. So I'm dealing with a genocidal maniac. I'm not dealing with myself. I'm not dealing with myself, I can't deal with them as I want to be dealt with. Because if I exhibited their behavior, because I think that I think that, like, if you are engaged in imperialist war crimes abroad, and some renegades, rebels come and take retribution, then it's your fault, not the rebels. You created the rebels and you created the backlash. I wouldn't hold the rebels accountable.
Okay, again, we are not having, in my mind, I don't think we're having the same conversation, because I'm asking a very direct, simple question. Firefight. I'm doing what I got to do. I got to survive. I got a God-given right to go home. Right? I'm talking about, are you, second person plural, are you, Diallo, willing to walk in them people's houses and kill their children? Hypothetically. I'm not willing to do it.
I'll answer like this since we recorded.
Yeah.
By any and all means necessary.
Yeah.
I don't think there is anything, because here's the bottom line. As we've been told by several scholars, from Francis Fanon, Malcolm X, there are so many people who have articulated this, even Martin Luther King, several people who took a stand and organized for justice, even European radicals and European freedom fighters. The terms required to secure freedom from oppression is not defined by the oppressed. It is defined by the oppressor. I celebrate and fully embrace everything Nat Turner did.
Yes.
And if signing a petition, if marching, if fasting, if getting a good education and being a productive member of society, if all those things were adequate to end genocide and oppression, it would have been over.
I agree.
So they have decided we're willing to risk the lives and comfort of our people. We're willing to ship our sons overseas to die in the desert. We're willing to ship our sons overseas to die in the swamp or die in a rainforest in order to maintain our profit. They're the ones, they're at fault for that. So anyone, whether it's an insurgent, a revolutionary, a guerrilla, I do not hold them at fault. As long as they're doing what Neely Fuller said, as long as they are engaged in ascending violence, you won't hear me condemn or attack or denounce them.
And again, I want to be clear. I'm not denouncing nobody. All I'm saying is I don't think I have the capacity to engage in that activity.
When people, when members of the empire experience blowback, do you feel sympathy?
No.
And we on the same page, I think.
But see, again, it's something my uncle told me, man. Man, I was a child. Like, I was definitely still in elementary school. And my uncle was telling me how, you know, anybody can let anybody have it with a gun. You know, these guns is whatever. But if you really want to see it happen to them, you got to do it with a blade. And I have internalized that in so many ways to mean so many different things, right? Like, you know, we're talking about genocidal maniacs and we're really making it this really big thing. I ain't got no issue getting my lick back. But I don't know if I had the capacity to do what they doing.
You're not doing what they are doing. Are you an oppressor? Are you an imperialist? Are you a colonizer?
No.
So how are you doing what they are doing? I don't want to colonize Europe. I don't want to enslave white people. I don't want to mass incarcerate their children.
I don't either. And all I'm saying is, if I had to do that, I don't think I had the capacity to.
I'm not suggesting we do it. I'm saying anything you do in resistance to that is justified. Anything.
And
as long as it is truly can be defined as potentially effective.
And all I'm saying is a lot of people is easy for them to take a position that sounds like your position because they ain't gonna be the one to do it.
Well, I appreciate people who take that position, but yet have the discipline or the awareness not to act on it, because I don't agree with martyrdom. I don't believe in an afterlife. So I think people should preserve the length of their lives and the quality of their lives to the fullest extent.
Right.
And
I just want to add this, bro. Hold on, bro, because I think this is so important. When you having these academic conversations, you second person plural, because I think we talk two positions through each other. Because I don't think we're having a conversation where you're talking to me, because I definitely don't think you think you're talking to me. And I'm definitely not talking to you. But what I'm saying is this real easy to be on some like by any means necessary at your book club? Like, well, do you, not you, Diallo. I'm talking about are the people that's like, hell yeah, like we'll kill everything.
But I have to say this. The systems and institutions of imperialism and capitalism, they fear book clubs more than they fear gun clubs. There is a reason where the corporate media and the U.S. government has done more at the same time that the Supreme Court is reaffirming the Second Amendment and removing all access to all obstructions to securing arms. But at the same time, they're doing everything to defund and suppress formal education and informal education.
Right.
I say this all the time, and I think we miss this. It was a COINTELPRO, stands for Counterintelligence Program, not Counter Weapons Program, Counter Militancy Program. Revolution is an intellectual endeavor. And our guns have saturated, our community where I live is saturated with guns. There's not a gun store anywhere in my community within a 15, 20-mile radius. I can't think of a gun store. But there are guns everywhere. But I can name 3 or 4 bookstores. I can name a dozen bookstores, and many of the bookstores, some of them, not many, are Black owned. And when I walk in there, them shits is empty. So yes, you should be mulling over this, because if you're going to ever contemplate or organize to take such actions, maximum emergency compensatory justice, you should be very clear intellectually and psychologically and emotionally. You better have that locked down before you take physical actions.
I ain't saying you shouldn't. All I'm saying is we having a whole lot of conversation about if you second person plural is with any means necessary in a very safe place.
Where else should you suggest people do it?
Like, if you with the shit, like, get with the shit.
I'm with the shit. But I don't dictate the shit. The shit existed before I got here. The conditions, I have to mobilize and move according to the conditions that I exist within.
All I'm saying, bro, is...
And I'm telling you, I've been organizing a long time. And it's so easy to get people out here. People are more willing to risk their lives than change their thinking. Critical thinking that challenges your indoctrination or your well-entrenched beliefs is more painful. And people out here killing and dying for their false beliefs. So I think we do ourselves a disservice if we downgrade trying to say, well, people who are in the book clubs are less committed or not as authentic as people in the gun shows, because we've seen through their countermeasures. We see through their countermeasures. They fear revolutionary scholars than unhinged militants. In fact, many of these unhinged militant organizations and individuals, and by unhinged, I mean they're not rooted in any type of radical analysis or academic comprehension of their conditions. I think they fear, like I said, it's evident throughout history. They fear, I mean, Dr. King was considered a global threat, an international threat. They were scared as fuck of Dr. King, and Dr. King wasn't putting his hands on nobody. And it's because he was adjusting and evolving in his thinking, not because he was a physical threat. They understand, and every time these imperialists and colonizers have a military campaign, they always talk about the hearts and minds. And they were like, we can bomb these people to the Stone Age. We can create prison and concentration camps. But if we fail to capture their hearts and minds, we can't defeat them. And they have our hearts and minds. And Dr. Bobby E. Wright said today, right now, the struggle is for the African mind. And the number one threat to African people right now is menticide.
You ain't said nothing I disagree with, champ. Well, I'm saying that I don't know if I'm communicating clearly enough, and is not reducing the book club is talking about the way you will enact violence in the book club when fuck shit be happening and when things happen and people are not nearly as violent in response as they politics say that they would be. Like, it's easy to talk about what you would do when you ain't got to be in that spot.
That's the best time to do it. You don't learn to do surgery.
You're not
while
hearing
you're
what
doing
I'm saying,
surgery.
Diallo. You're not being a. You're
I
either
think
being
I am.
obtuse.
Listen to me. I've been in rooms with guys.
No, Diallo.
Listen.
You are either being obtuse for the sake of the show.
I'm not.
Or I'm not expressing myself clearly enough, because there is no way you can believe that the way people pop. You've talked about it before. I look at a lot of these folks that are talking about, I don't love my enemies, I ain't gonna turn the other cheek, I'm with all the violence, in the way that you describe those men that take pictures with their daughters holding all them guns. Mm-hmm. I look at this the same way. It's so many opportunities, if that's the type of shit that you own, to get down with that.
Where do the opportunities exist?
Go outside.
But that's not revolution. I'm talking revolution.
I'm talking about the way people are centering this act of conversing about what they'll do with a gun.
But I'm not doing that, though. Why are you having that discussion with me? Because that's not what I'm doing.
Okay,
I'm not talking about what an individual should do with a gun.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Because I don't see any of these conversations about turning the other cheek happen in any other context other than imaginary ascending violence. Like, if you really with the ascending violence, rob a bank.
What end?
Listen, what was the end of Buddy? What was the end of Buddy? Buddy denied the pose, defend.
That's white folks. I'm talking about for black people seeking liberation.
So
they're not like us. Shout out to Luigi, though. But that's a different conversation about Luigi. Because Luigi, this is what we have to understand. White people have a lot of legitimate gripes. But we're under genocidal oppression. They're under capitalist under exploitation. Right? And those are two different things. There are overlaps and things where we can even cooperate, coordinate, and unite with the white left, white anarchists, white capitalists, white anti-capitalists, white anti-fascists, white communists. But that's something different. But sitting here saying go rob a bank is not a revolutionary act. I'm talking about revolution and the ideology, philosophies, and strategies and tactics for creating revolution, not people lashing out at injustice. Now, if a person lashes out at injustice, I won't condemn them, but I also can't say, well, that's a revolutionary act.
What I'm saying is,
how does that subvert or disrupt or obstruct the systems and institutions of global white hegemony and capitalism? Because that's the goal. And whenever we start to talk and when we discuss the potential for violence or the necessity for violence or the philosophies related to violence, saying, well, you can't talk about violence unless you out there in the street shooting. When really the reality is, if you look at the U.S. military, before you can oversee and instruct violence, generals are academics. Generals are, to be a U.S. general, you have to have a PhD level education and published in peer-reviewed journals. You have to be a scholar, a scientist, a philosopher, or a researcher. And the U.S. military has as many classrooms as it does shooting ranges. So yes, I think we do need to discuss the values and violence within our culture, because there are Black people out here taking it to the streets, but their primary targets and their primary victims are other Black people.
What I'm talking about is, don't be telling me that you, second person plural, ain't got no love for your enemy, and when you get pulled over, you don't throw copper.
That would make sense. So because I have no love for my enemy, I have to conduct myself in an irrational way?
If you win it, yeah, let's do it.
When you read Guerrilla Warfare, Che Guevara, Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, or all these other texts that talk about how to cultivate, because I think organized revolutionary violence is something you have to work your way to and earn. You cannot carry it out as an individual, and you can't carry it out in a vacuum. So it's really peculiar to me to assert that we can't discuss violence unless we're ready to do violence. When these motherfuckers,
see, that's what I'm saying, bro. See,
let me finish. We've seen the U.S. Wait.
No. I won't wait. No. Because I defer.
Because I don't know why you out here.
We are having a conversation. We are having a conversation that is going into a different direction than what the conversation started off as. The conversation started off as me saying I am not willing to go outside and harm white children.
Who told you to? Now, you're the only person, nobody here but you has been talking about harming children. And when you put harming children on the table, I responded to you talking about harming children, telling you that if a true revolutionary engages in true revolutionary work and children are harmed, it is the fault of the oppressor and the colonizer. So those children that Nat Turner and his fellow rebels hacked up, that was the fault of the enslavers. Those children that got caught up in Rhodesia or Tanzania, that's the fault of the oppressor. If I'm out here every day, I walk out my front door, I'm acting abusive towards my neighbors, stealing from my neighbors, assaulting my neighbors' wives and children. Every day I walk out this damn house. And a few of those neighbors said, it's enough, man. This brother is a tyrant. And they throw a Molotov through my front window and my children get caught up in that. Whose fault is it? Whose fault is it?
Again, speaking for me, that's a great point. I want to show this. Okay, one, I don't open carry, but I do carry. And that was one of those instances where it was like, hey, like, this is craziness. What is going on here? This is why I own weapons, to protect myself and my family. I am not on a mission to go outside and be on the offensive because I don't have the capacity for that. I defend myself. I will go real far to defend myself. I will go real far to defend people I love and things that I think are important. I know what I'll do. I know what I have done, right? I am saying in this conversation,
which only you have brought up, only you have put this scenario on the table.
No,
nobody to go out and mess with nobody's kids.
We are not talking about. I'm talking about, are we willing to go there? Because that's what they doing. I ain't willing to do that. I ain't willing to harm nobody's child. If somebody's child is in the street, I'm not willing to keep going. If they throw their kids out there, like the civil rights movement, there's nothing in my head that says to me that there is any reason that I need to be involved in this activity. And that is what I'm talking about. I am talking about the way that we keep talking about.
Not even to save your own children?
I don't know, bro. Like, I don't know how we got to the point that that's what I got to do to save my child.
Can I give you examples?
No.
Can I give you real historical examples where somebody's kids had to Well, you said you supported Nat Turner.
I do.
And so when you ran up in the plantation house and Nat Turner grabbed that little baby, and you would have been like, I'm out. In fact, I'm going to ring the alarm bell on you.
You see what I'm saying? And I know you're doing that to be funny, but that's not what I said.
But I'm also curious. I know I said it. I do say that to be in jest, but I'm also curious. Do you denounce Nat Turner?
You can't be serious if you know who I am.
Well, you said,
if you know who I am, what I tell you.
You said you can't harm children, and I agree. I don't want to harm children. I don't want to see any children. Hell, I don't want to see animals harmed. I don't want to see any sentient being harmed.
Okay.
I feel enormous guilt just appropriating the labor of honeybees.
Okay.
I'm losing sleep behind that. And I don't carry weapons besides my little utility knife.
Okay.
And with harming children, you're saying, first you said you can't harm children, but then I said, what if your children are in danger? Would you harm other people's children to protect yours? And then you said, I don't know. So we went from absolutely not to I don't know.
Right. Because I'm being honest about who and what I am.
Yeah, I respect that. So there are scenarios. And again, the actions we have to take for our liberation and survival are not defined by us. It is defined by those who oppress us and
I don't disagree with it.
Huh?
I don't disagree with it.
And so we can come up with a lot of scenarios, to be honest with you.
And all I'm saying is a lot of people that's talking about what they'll do ain't willing to do that. And that's all I'm saying.
Why are we here speculating about people?
Because I know people
that haven't been said and people who aren't here to defend
I know people. I know humanity. Humanity has not changed that much. And one of the reasons that
humanity has changed immensely. Humanity has changed immensely. We are still evolving primates. And I'm not saying that negatively. I think many of the changes that human societies, human cultures have gone through are good. And there are some institutions within society that want to stop that change, who want to hamper human intellectual development, who want to return us to a state of slavery, serfdom, feudalism. But humans have made great strides. And I think because we don't like to pay attention to what we've achieved, because it's been achieved under oppression, so we still oppressed, and so we don't like to recognize the incremental things or the harm reduction things that have happened, and we end up losing that shit too. I'm extremely appreciative of the changes. I know my great-grandfather, Sonic's Bowie, couldn't get on a public forum and say the things I say, and not have a crowd of white boys, including the county sheriff, drag him out and murder him and mutilate his corpse. That is a change, and I appreciate that change. I'm not going to pretend like it's the same. And to me, I think what little concessions, not freedoms, not rights, but we've won concessions. We fought for and died for concessions from this system. And I think we need to take every concession we win to the extreme, to the max, and go far beyond it. But I think, that the topic of violence, contemplating violence, strategizing about violence, even fantasizing about violence against our oppressors is appropriate and necessary. I think that because if we do not develop our martial culture, every culture has a martial component. Every living system has a defense mechanisms. And that don't mean We got to go out and act on it. I can't discuss violence. I can't plan scenarios for violence. I can't prepare myself for violence unless I go and do violence immediately. When we know the U.S. military, the Pentagon, plans for wars 50 to 75 years out. We know that the U.S. Was preparing to invade and occupy Iraq and its oil fields almost 40 years before they sent the first troop over there. So they were like, listen, oil is dwindling. We have some friendly Saudi Arabia. We got friendly powers that have oil, but there are some hostile forces that have oils, economic nationalists. So we're going to have to occupy those fields in order to control fossil fuels. And so they were preparing for the invasion and occupation of Iraq. And then what if you were a general in that boardroom saying, wait, why are we going to wait 40 years? Let's do it right now. You would lose your rank and be kicked out. Or if you say, let's not even deal with it until we're ready to fight. Let's not talk about it until we're ready to do it. Don't even think about it. Go do it right now. Go take out Iraqi military right now. Go take them down right now. That's just not how we've been oppressed for generations. We've had small, isolated violence. We've had sustained resistance. We've had individuals rise up and take action. Shout out to Mark Essex. And we need to learn from those acts and not simply repeat them, but cultivate it. And whatever happens to the children of the imperialist, whatever happens to the children of the colonist, whatever happens to the children of the genociders is the fault of the genociders, the imperialists, and the colonists. You know, if I had a Native American warrior on my wall and somebody came and said he was scalping little baby, I'm like, I wouldn't take it down. But that's me. And I'm not advocating for violence. And violence saturates everything we do. And violence is all around us. We have sterilizing distance between the violence that sustains us and those who carry it out. But it's everywhere all the time. So my question is not whether or not we should engage in violence. I'm saying, can we define what revolutionary violence is and how we can develop and cultivate enough of us to where we can engage in revolutionary violence in a way that can be sustained and one that directly advances us to our ultimate goals. And, you know, you had said something that I think where you said seeing the humanity in our enemies. I think more so than seeing humanity in our enemies, I think we project humanity onto them. I think we do an enormous amount of psychological projection. And we see things that have never been there. And I think we also, in terms of gaining or preserving or losing our humanity, have we even defined what humanity is? Skip?
Man, I am at the point where humanity, I don't even know if I get to define it, because like I said earlier about the 5% conversation, like I don't know how to. I have to assume you have it until you affirm to me that you don't.
But what is it?
I think just being a part of the species. Like, just the species is just like your existence. Your existence in the same space that I am is your humanity. and you can go against it. Like you can have a reprobate mind, and you can be a capitalist, and it ain't much that I can do with you. But until you die, you have an opportunity to reject it.
Yeah, but there's certain, when we talk about humanity, and then it's fundamental. The core of that is to be humane, and being humane means, you know, caring for, having empathy, and caring for other humans, and being able to live peacefully with other humans, and not to violate other human beings. So there's a lot of positive attributes we attribute to humanity, but in the formal definition, those attributes aren't really there. And there are a lot across cultures. What can be defined as a functional or a good member of society varies widely across cultures and timelines. And I don't know. It's just, I see that as African people under oppression, you know, oppression is a terminal disease. No people can live perpetually under oppression without eventually going extinct. And oppressed people throughout history, without exception, begin a process of self-cannibalization. They either will cannibalize themselves or they will attack their oppressor. But you can't, it's not a stasis that you can just exist in, because it is such a unnatural state. You know, so I think one of the core values of humanity is sustaining humans. So it is inhumane for us not to take the necessary actions as a collective to sustain ourselves. But as we've kind of gotten entangled with, many of the actions required to sustain ourselves require us to compromise what many people would say is our humanity. And I'm not even talking violence, but I'm saying distrust, hostility, hatred, exclusionary practices.
The thing that I definitely think that we can find some unity on pretty easily is if black folks treated white folks the way black folks treat other black folks largely, you know what I'm saying? You know, like I really don't understand it. Because I'm not a black person that believes that black people are just obsessed with whiteness, but I do think it shows up in a lot of ways that we don't really understand, and in that we do ourselves a disservice because we extend humanity to our oppressor but not to ourselves. And that's something that I'm not willing to do.
Well, I think that no.
Because of the boys, I find myself in wider spaces than I would normally be in. And there are things that happen in those spaces that I wouldn't be comfortable doing to somebody else. And when I get into spaces that are black, I see a very similar version of that thing show up when it ain't no white people there. And it's confusing to me.
But how do you spend generations under oppression and not arrive at that? I mean, there was a book called Gorillas by
I think I have that. I don't think I read it, but I think is it like a red and black book?
Yeah, it has a few covers,
Is one of the covers like red and black? Can you just post a picture of the cover?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now.
Okay. Because I think they were talking about people that were like in open resistance. Like it was written like in the 70s, 60s, something like that.
Yeah. Well, he was talking to several, really going back from the 60s all the way up to the 90s, actually. And he was interviewing active guerrilla fighters, the Tamil Tigers, the guerrilla fighters, Latin American and African guerrilla fighters.
Yeah, I think that's the book that I'm talking about, Guerrillas. Yeah.
Where, are they burying that book too? Wow. Why do I have to look around so much for this book? Oh, there it is. Wow. Okay, this is it. Yeah, this is the cover too. They got the meanest looking dude they could put on there. Why won't they display the cover? I'm just trying to show the cover.
Yeah, like this is crazy.
Here it is. They got the meanest looking dude on there. Here it is. Now I have to share screen. Sorry, everybody. Thank y'all for being patient. This is this book. So in this book, he went around talking to people who were actively engaged in armed warfare against corporations and government institutions. They were trying to overthrow either their government or foreign occupiers. And when he was interviewing, when he talked about the various movements that he talked about in this book, he would give a little history. Like, I didn't know the Tamil Tigers, which are an atheist communist group, were the ones who invented or created the strategy of suicide bombs. Because when suicide bombing and suicide vests, we often think of religious fanaticism, especially Islamic. But it was the Tamil Tigers, staunchly atheist communistic guerrilla force, who first employed suicide vest and suicide bombing as a tactic or strategy for guerrilla warfare. So you learn something. But anyway, he was talking about Palestine. And this is before the Palestine kind of became cause du jour. And he said, prior to Yasser Arafat and the PLO taking the helm of the Palestinian resistance, Palestine had some of the highest homicide rates in the world per capita. And every day, the officials would go around the occupied territories in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. And because they didn't have access to guns, it was mostly stabbings, and just collect bodies of young Palestinian men, like literally putting them on wheelbarrows and taking them to the city morgue, or it's not even a city, the morgues, because they had high rates of homicide for the young men. And as soon as the Intifada was called, as soon as there was the violence was organized and directed at the occupier, the homicides became negligible. And most of the homicides were associated with people who were either accused of or actively betraying the Intifada. Same thing in South Africa. They arrested and forced Winnie Mandela to go before the Truth and Reconciliation Commission because she had her guerrilla fighters taking out people who cooperated or betrayed the Tanzanian uprising in resistance to apartheid. But we can observe, after the revolution was surrendered and Nelly Mandela negotiated a peaceful resolution to the South African apartheid, South Africa became one of the most violent and dangerous places for any Black person to live. So the level of violence that oppressed people enact on each other is directly or indirectly proportional to the level of violence they direct towards their oppressor throughout the world, throughout cultures. Even Europeans. You notice how the Irish under British colonization, the Irish was blowing each other up and murdering each other more than they were killing the British. So it's an unfortunate reality of oppression, but Black people are not unique in that. And that was by design. Because remember, Nixon said, tell Black people if they want to become revolutionaries, they're going to be dead revolutionaries or they're going to be locked up revolutionaries. So he said, try to resolve your issues peacefully and politically, but not through armed resistance. Because if you engage in armed resistance, you will be incarcerated and or killed. And right after that, Black people pretty much accepted that agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Our incarceration and homicide rates skyrocketed. We had higher levels of incarceration and internal violence than we did when we were in active resistance as a state, as a people. So that is the byproduct. Cannibalization is a byproduct of oppression. And I can't find any place where that wasn't or isn't the case to this day or in the past. So let me just share that book one more time. I don't know if it's easy to get, but I just put in gorillas and the book didn't come up.
No, I found a bunch of them on eBay. I just added it to a cart. They got where you buy 3 books, you get 1 free. So I'm trying to find the other books.
Yeah, but it's an interesting book because he's actually talking to people, and it's not all good. Like,
yeah,
some of the guerrilla fighting forces imposed the death penalty for adultery. Because many of the guerrillas would leave their villages and be gone for years at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And their women would, get lonely or, and
a non-fighter would show up. Yeah, a non-fighter would show up.
Yeah, exactly. And the death penalty was imposed for adulterers, the man and the woman. At least that's something. But that, to me, that is extremely reactionary, and that's not an appropriate act. And I don't think that really served the struggle. So it's an honest portrayal. It's not like a book that's pro guerrilla and pro. To me, especially for a white anthropologist and historian, to me, the book kind of gives a fair look at guerrilla warfare and guerrilla fighters that many books, if you find a book, it's either calling these people terrorists or calling them saints and saviors, depending. It's either when you talk about these guerrilla and resistance movements, they don't treat them like humans and that with complexities and flaws. They either act like they're monsters or saviors. So this book, I think, gives a fair balance. But anyway, I think that the Black homicide rate and the Black and Black on Black violence explains that extremely
descending violence. I'd rather use descending violence.
Yeah, but most of our violence
is lateral.
It's lateral, right?
It's hard to get lower. It's just, man, like, bro, like, today was a challenge for me. I will also say that I oftentimes am not having these conversations in spaces that are as academic. So, like, I also have to get out of my head and but yeah. It's hard, bro.
Yeah. Oh, this is so true. This is something we also overlook.
A lot.
Many revolutionaries become gangsters and criminals when the revolution fails. And what's most telling about that is that this system that we live under, capitalism, has a much higher tolerance for criminals than it does for revolutionaries.
Yep.
And that's why I always say we need to stop with this revolutionary but gangster shit. Because a revolutionary is the opposite of a gangster. And we saw that many of the communists, because they got a skill set, and the system was like, they much rather have our youth engaged in criminal behavior than revolutionary behavior, which is, I guess, quite obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Because most criminals are, I don't like saying this out loud, but I think it. Many of these black gangs and gangsters and many of these black entrepreneurial class, they're capitalist bottom feeders.
Yep.
And they have terms like the petite bourgeoisie and all these sophisticated terms, but they're just bottom feeders. They are not partners with white capitalists. They're assets of white capitalists. They're tools and assets of the white capitalists. And it hurts me that these black capitalists, these prominent black figures, the gangsters and the entrepreneurial class, which often overlap, have such prominence in our community.
But I mean, the reason is because, again, man, a dude named Jason said, we don't want parity. We want a chance at the other end of disparity. And ultimately, and see, that's what I'm saying, Muse and Bloom, I don't even think it's escapism. I think it's just I want to be on the other side. Not I want to break it. I think y'all understand, but maybe this explains it a little better, because I haven't done a good job explaining myself at some points tonight. Imagine your cousins keep throwing you out the room so you never get a chance to play the Nintendo, right?
I don't have to imagine.
Yeah, right?
That's my lived experience.
All right. So instead of wanting the Nintendo out the game, out the house, or at least out the room where they can put me out so I get a chance to play, your whole focus is on getting in the room. Well, now they got all the control. Well, if you bring us water, we'll let you come in for a little bit. All right, now go get us sandwiches and you can stay for a little longer. All right, make up my bed and then you can play for 3 minutes. All right, you play for 3 minutes. Now you got to do, and then you find yourself just doing all of this stuff when, in my mind, let's just break it. I don't get a chance to play. Cool, don't nobody play. We not there yet. We still want our 15 minutes on the game. And I don't understand how we get to a point that we want our 15 minutes on the game, knowing that there's other people in the hallway that don't get to play the game too. I'm just not there. I don't know how we get there. I don't know how we get there.
You want to open up?
Yeah, man. Yeah, let's open up. We got 30 more minutes, huh?
No. We run Tings. Tings no run us.
Okay.
We can have 3 minutes or 3 hours.
Oh. No.
Huh?
3 hours. That's crazy.
I'm just saying.
3 hours.
Tings no run us. That's all I'm saying.
3 hours is crazy work.
I don't like this term Stockholm syndrome, especially as it relates to Black people's affinity for white folks or this white system. And here's why. If you go back and because the people who promote the Stockholm syndrome as a mental defect, if you go and read the testimony of the hostages, they were not defective at all. They were very clear and concise in their assessment. Because the hostages said to a person, when we were taken hostage by the bank robbers, and the people who came to save us seemed more concerned with their authority and their objectives than our safety. Whereas the people who held us hostage were meeting our needs and giving us what we wanted. And there were many times in the negotiation that we felt more threatened by the police than we did by the hostage takers. And it's not because we have some mental defect. We felt more threatened simply because of their posturing and behavior. The police were being more aggressive and trying to advance things. And as negotiations were moving forward, the police were doing more to upend the negotiation and pretty much make a violent confrontation inevitable than the hostage takers. But they were very clear. The hostage takers were criminals who were engaged in a crime and they should face consequences. But in the ability to bring them to justice, I felt like I was just a tool, or I was just expendable by the police. And so when they said, well, the hostage takers were kind to us, all things considered, they met our needs. They made sure we were safe and secure. They didn't hit us or abuse us, and they didn't even continue to threaten us. They said, if you go along with what we instruct. And so white folks in this country have never been good to us or concerned about us. They did take us hostage, but in being taken hostage, we've been under perpetual abuse, where the Stockholm hostages were not. And I read their testimonies, and I'm like, these people don't have some syndrome, because the word syndrome is literally a defective process. In a clinical sense, when you say someone has a syndrome, they have a defective process. But I'm like, the people were attacked not because they had love for their attackers. The people were disparaged in Stockholm because they had a critique of authority. And they denounced the actions of authority and the overreach of authority. Black people in this country are more akin to a battered spouse syndrome than Stockholm syndrome, where someone takes you hostages, locks you in, strips your humanity, strips your autonomy, isolates you from healthy relationships, and perpetually abuses you. And whenever you try to get away from them, they will seduce you back. But if you leave them for good, that's when they become homicidal. Black people, it's not and even the sexual component, I was about to say this is not necessarily sexual, but the sexual abuse and dehumanization is also there. So Black people are more in an abusive spouse syndrome in our psychology, because also you'll see that a lot of times when the authority comes to lock up the abuser, the woman will fight for them, stop them from being arrested, or demand or not cooperate with prosecution. And who loves the enemies of white folks more? Black people, whoever white man tell us is the enemy, we're like, that's the enemy. So I think it might sound less comfortable to say battered spouse syndrome, but if you need an analogy for our collective, it's not Stockholm. It doesn't fit the definition of Stockholm. Do genocidal maniacs consider themselves such? If there was a hell, it would be filled with hypocrites. Yes, genocidal maniacs are very proud. There was a meme circulating that showed a European cowboy literally hacking a Native American to death. And the meme said, not stolen, conquered. The Europeans believe that their conquest is justified because they bring the light of civilization, the salvation of Christ, and the advancement of technology. And anyone that is in the way of progress is an existential threat.
So yes, every genocide white folks have carried out, and Europeans have carried out genocide on every single populated landmass on this earth. You know, and then if you include ecocide and killing and driving animals to extinction, they've committed omnicide or ecocide on every pop, including Antarctica. And every single time when you look at their, not just their historical accounts, but their mythologies that they create around it, go look at a U.S. war movie on Vietnam. Go look at a U.S. movie on how the West was won. So they consider themselves justified, heroic, and yes, they know they have white people out. But these people were a threat to progress, so it was justified.
What else we got?
Don't nobody want to holler? What else we got? Oh, what are your views on China? Do you think China got economic liberation slowly through intellectual pursuits? My view on China is that the communist revolution has been greatly compromised, and I think that the Chinese people need to redirect and reorient the Chinese Communist Party back to the fundamental values of communism. Because if they sacrifice communism, the great Sinocentric, the Chinese century will be compromised. Just like the Russians, when Russians begin to portray their communistic agenda, they are where they are. They lost, the Soviet Union dissolved. So, but did you think China? And see, the second part of that question. No, I don't think China did it solely through intellectual pursuits. But if you don't understand Sinocentrism and the Cultural Revolution, without Sinocentrism and the Cultural Revolution, all the guns in the world would have never freed China. So the roots of it. And what did Mao do before he sparked his revolution? First of all, the revolution was started by scholars, not soldiers, number one. Not even the working people, as Marx theorized that the communist revolution would be brought on by the industrial workforce. But most communist uprisings were guided by scholars and intellectuals, not the workers taking up arms. And if you don't, the first thing Mao did before he took up an arm in the guerrilla warfare was he wrote down his little red book. He wrote down and articulated and advanced and spread his fundamental ideas and philosophies. So you don't just have people out here fighting against the nationalists. You understand why you're fighting against the nationalists. You know who you're fighting against, and you know what you're fighting for. So intellectual pursuits are the foundation of the Chinese revolution, communist revolution. What's wrong with people? Yeah. I guess that's it. I shared the link. Nobody came on live. You see any other questions?
I want to get into this one. Man, that's a whew.
That's he didn't just say that's George Jackson. He didn't just say good men must learn to love cutting throats. He said good men must learn to love cutting throats as much as wicked men do. So you don't just get to cut a throat and say, okay, I did it. You have to match their level of violence and surpass it even.
Yeah.
Shout out to George Jackson.
The guy.
Even though I have my critiques of him. It's not my critiques of him. I think people, like they do with Malcolm X, they don't look at the whole person. When these people reach icon status, we kind of put them on a pedestal and we don't see them holistically or engage with their teachings, philosophies, or writings holistically. You know, his books are not sacred tomes.
No. What you be saying? Ain't no sacred cows?
All right. Ain't no sacred cow. But ain't no commodified cows either. So they're not products either. So I don't want people to be like, yeah, ain't no sacred.
Born liberated. Hold on, let me find this.
Man, you act like to ask me. You know goddamn well. Anybody that knows anything about the Chinese Revolution, knowing it wasn't solely an intellectual endeavor, you know you was being.
Who doesn't Diallo have
brother
critiques
myself.
of? Diallo.
Oh please, well, let me think.
When is Diallo coming to Baltimore? He can't.
I was just there.
He was not.
Yes, I
Diallo,
was. I was in Baltimore.
Diallo can't come to Baltimore.
Let me tell you, I hate myself because I love the colonial architecture of Baltimore. I loved it. I hate that shit.
He can't come to Baltimore.
I was just there.
He doesn't have any critiques of himself.
I do. Me and R. Kelly, I need to learn how not to have such a big heart. Me and R. Kelly got the same problem. I love too hard.
That's not the way that works.
Me how not to have such an open and big heart. See, me and R. Kelly got the same damn problem. Yeah, I guess that's it. Oh, James is going to be our co-host on the Class Con show.
I love it.
I don't know which name to do. He has several aliases.
I only know him as James.
Huh? Yeah, well, he's got other names, which I'm not going to out him.
Okay. Muses in Bloom. I don't know about the decline in birth rate question. I didn't even see
it. Black people don't have a declining birth rate.
Yeah, Africa.
But when you develop nations and liberate women, women's liberation is always followed by a declining birth rate. When women have more bodily autonomy, freedoms, and options within a society. So when you start to lament the declining birth rate, you're literally talking about the re-enslavement of women. Because throughout history and even modern industrial society, the women have been viewed as and treated like breeding stock. And I don't think that declining birth rates are a serious issue for anyone. And the societies that cry about declining birth rates tend to be fascist, right-wing, reactionary, and xenophobic. Because if you got a declining birth rate, all you got to do is open up your border and let people migrate. Yeah. Instead of taking away women's right to abortion and turning them into breeding sows.
I want to say this before we go. I think the chat was I'm gonna pop up on some Fridays. This Friday I actually can do it. So like if y'all want me to come on Friday, I come through on Friday.
All right.
I want to give a huge thumbs up to the chat. Y'all were like really friendly and cordial and like building today, man. Like that's what's up, man. Shout out to y'all for being real. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to that. Like I really appreciate that. People being kind to each other.
Yeah. I appreciate that too. And I'm gonna work harder. Yeah. I'm gonna be the good guy.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna tell you this, man. Somebody, I forgot who said it, but somebody was like, "Skip got to be here for Diallo to be cordial." And bro, be nice, man.
I'm very,
Be nice.
I'm passionate. Like I said, my heart.
Yeah. But like, be nice, man. Like, just be nice, man. Like,
I wanted, man. You know, I wanted to call myself D Nice, but that name was taken.
But now you can take it.
No, you know what I had to settle for?
What was that?
They used to call me Crazy D.
Crazy D.
That was my hood name.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I don't like you. Do not give off Crazy D vibes.
Well, when I was a
14-year-old sugar addict.
Okay.
I used to literally eat Snickers for dinner.
Hold on, man.
Yeah, that was my name.
Phrasing.
Back when everything wasn't innuendo.
Phrasing.
Yeah, that was me. You know, my oldest friend, my best friend since the 3rd grade, he was on the show last Friday.
I ripped the crib.
Yeah. You met him at the Ethiopian restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you notice he had on all red.
Ripped the crib.
But he said the Crips in Kansas City are allowed to wear red as long as the Chiefs are winning.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate you, bro. Why don't you close us out? We're getting out of here early.
Right on, man. Thank you. Thank you for all of the ways that we show up. Thank you for kindness and community. Thank you for grace. Thank you for our missteps that allow us to receive the grace from others, and the challenges that allow us to show the ways that you can appear in this world. Give us courage to be the people that we need to be, so that we may become the society that we're called to be. Make us brave in war as we are in peace, and as committed to ending our oppression as you are to loving us. Amen.
Ashe.
Hey, man. Hey, Preston John is a maniac.
What the hell?
Oh, man, this is crazy. Y'all are out of control.
Listen. Oh, and I got to warn you.
Okay.
My wife's going to be all up in your DMs, blowing up your phone.
Okay.
Because y'all got some deadlines to meet.
Yeah, I deserve it.
But don't call me and be like, man, your wife's on my back. You know, our marriage is stable. It's strictly business. As far as I know. But let me just warn you ahead of time.
That dude said, at least as far as I know. That's hilarious.
All right, bro.
Hey, right on, brother. Love you, man.
I love you. Appreciate you too, bro.
All right, bro.
Till next time, Rational Radicals. Like, share, subscribe, do all that algorithmic stuff. Help brothers out.